Good evening, I'm John Carter. Welcome to Poland Daily. A scandalous speech from the editor-in-chief of the Liberté newspaper, Leszek Jażdżewski, at the University of Warsaw has caused a lot of controversy. In his speech in front of the soon-to-be former president of the European Council, Donald Tusk, Jażdżewski brutally attacked the Catholic Church.
Kto zapłacił za ten seans nienawiści?
Who paid for this hate-filled show to tear apart the Polish community? Is it true that it was financed by an external institution? Have the courage to answer these questions.
Miejcie odwagę na te pytania nie nam, ale przede wszystkim opinii publicznej w Polsce odpowiedzieć.
To wystąpienia pana Jażdżewskiego i
Jażdżewski's and Mr. Tusk's performances were both part of a whole. As Mrs. Mazurek said, the main speaker, Donald Tusk, takes full responsibility for this. And I want to focus on the content of these speeches, in which the Catholic Church and the faithful have been attacked. I also want to focus on what Donald Tusk said. And he said, we shouldn't support the authority, we should disturb it. It bears the marks of the election campaign.
Frans Timmermans, the deputy chairman of the European Commission, attended a debate organised by Włodzimierz Cimoszewicz, a candidate from the Polish post-communist Democratic Left Alliance Party for the European Parliament today. A few weeks ago, Timmermans also showed his support for the Spring Party leader, Robert Biedroń. The deputy chairman insists that his support for the left side of the Polish politics with wanting to aid the forces of reason in the country.
Dear Włodzimierz Cimoszewicz, you will become an MEP. I'm 100% sure of it. We guarantee that. You're wise, you will be our representative. Dear President Kwaśniewski, you will remain who you are now, our beacon and guide for the development of our country. Dear Deputy Chairman, you will become the Chairman of the European Commission, but we have a surprise for Mr. Timmermans and for you. Today is Fran's birthday. I can't tell you how old he is, but I will tell you that I had my 59th birthday on May 3rd, and Mr. Timmermans is a year younger than me. Franz, this is a surprise for you. This is our Polish version of Happy Birthday to you.
Ładna piosenka. 100 lat, 100 lat, niech żyje, żyje nam.
The Law and Justice Party's candidate for the European Parliament elections, Jacek Saryusz-Wolski, has been highly critical of Frans Timmermans' engagement in the election campaign.
Kampania wyborcza europejskich socjalistów, w której pan Timmermans
Mr. Timmermans and the Civic Platform Party are the two different fractions in the European Parliament which fight with each other, especially now during the election campaign. Mr. Timmermans is the main candidate of the European Socialists for the European Council presidency. He's in huge conflict with the leader of the European People's Party and a candidate for this position at the same time. So the meeting of these two political powers in Poland is weird, because they're competitors on the European arena. They have their roots in this weird creation, the European coalition. European politics does not know cases like this one.
The Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán has taken another step in distancing himself and his Fidesz party from the European People's Party ahead of the European Parliament election. During a visit from Heinz-Christian Strache, the Austrian Vice-Chancellor and party leader of the far-right populist Freedom Party, Orbán told the press that he is withdrawing his support for the European People's Party's Manfred Weber as a candidate for President of the European Commission.
Viktor Orbán met with Heinz-Christian Strache in Budapest just a couple of days after hosting Italian Minister of the Interior Matteo Salvini. Orbán's frequent meetings with leaders of European far-right populist parties have indicated that he's moving away from the European People's Party, that his Fidesz party is a member of, but whose membership was suspended by the EPP's leadership in March. The EPP based its decision on Orbán's ad campaign against the positive stance on mass migration by the EPP leader and President of the European Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker. We would have liked Mr. Weber as Commission President, but he's announced not only that he would not need the votes of the Hungarians, but he would not want to become President with those votes. If someone insults a country like this, then the Prime Minister of that country cannot support the candidacy of such a person. This is simply against the rules of democracy and morals. Orbán also stated that the question of his party's membership in the EPP will be settled after the elections. Loyalty is an an important political category, and we would like to stand by the political community where we have lived and worked so far. Unless this community says they don't want our presence there anymore, then we have to face that reality. But these are all questions that will be on the agenda following the European parliamentary elections. The Austrian Vice-Chancellor Heinz-Christian Strache indicated that he spoke with Orban about Fidesz joining the nationalist camp in the European Parliament. Naturally, we talked about the European Parliament elections. We do believe that these patriotic national parties will be stronger, and there is going to be a possibility for a nationalist patriotic European fraction that could have a majority beyond the European People's Party and the Socialists. As Fidesz is expected to win around 50% of the votes in the Hungarian election to the European Parliament, Orban will send a large number of MEPs to Brussels. The election results will be in on May 26th.
Thank you very much for joining us here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily Weather. It's followed by the business, culture, history and finally the travel.
Welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Overnight lows will be from -2 degrees in Olsztyn as well as in Białystok, and -1 degree will be seen in Łódź, Szczecin, as well as in Poznań. The maximum temperature will be 3 degrees in the capital of Poland, also in Rzeszów. Now let's check the forecast in Poland for tomorrow. 13 degrees will be the maximum temperature in Bydgoszcz, 12 degrees will be seen in central parts of the country, also in Poznań, Krakow and Wrocław, and the minimum temperature will be 9 degrees in the eastern parts of the country. Also some showers are expected in the area of Wrocław. In the next 3 days, 12 degrees will be the maximum temperature on Wednesday in central Poland as well as in the southwest. On Thursday, the maximum temperature will be 17 degrees in central Poland as well as in the northeast, and 14 degrees will be the minimum. And on Friday, we are expecting showers in many parts of the country, but also some sun will appear in the northern parts of Poland. This is all for tonight. Thank you.
Poland Daily Business Edition. Our guest tonight is Nick Sadowski-Streit from New York. Sir, welcome to our show.
Thank you for inviting me. I feel privileged to be part of Polish program in English.
Yes, who needs programs about Poland produced in English language?
First of all, Poland. And second of all, Polish Americans and their kids. I have kids that were born in Poland, and even though they speak and read Polish, it's not their natural language. So if you want to give them some news, some perspective on history of Poland, of what's going on, which is our perspective, we need to start giving them this news in English language.
It is surprising that such a production is not present in Poland. We are 28 years after the 1990, after the changes, after the fall of communism, and we don't speak to the world in the language the world understands.
But I see the light at the end of the tunnel being in this program. But you're definitely right. This is a huge problem because, let's say, we have Russia Today. We have France 24. We have BBC World, right? They all talk about the news that is surrounding us with their narrative, okay? So they put their spin on it. And if you take a look at these programs, they all try to take care of the business of the country and the news, which is important.
Well, marketing-wise, how would you describe the base of viewership for this program and our program like this, speaking about Poland in English?
In the United States?
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, we're in a business program, right?
Right.
There is a lot of people investing in Poland, and they all are a little bit afraid of what's going on. They are soaked in the news from the left, which in the United States controls all the news. 90% of media is in 6 giants, right? They're all connected with business and they all lean to the left. So if you're a businessman and you're trying to see what's going on in Poland and you hear that some things are not okay, you need to have a different channel.
60,000 fascists marching on Warsaw.
Yes. So you might be afraid, where am I investing? Is it really the case that there's so many problems? Are the judicial system is really bad? How is my business going to operate? So now, if you give them the channel, which sells our narrative, right, the Polish narrative in English language, this will help them to make some decisions. Now, look at all the second, third generation of Polish Americans, like my kids. My kids speak fluent Polish. They read Polish, but Polish language is not something that they're going to absorb as well as English language. So if you want to have a next generation of Polish ambassadors in the United States, we better give them some news which is not biased.
So we have to tell about Poland, both in terms of what is going on right now, then what happened, what are the processes that are occurring in Poland right now, what is the historical background, what is the Polish culture, and after all, why one should go to Poland, because it's not a grey, dirty country with horses that are pulling the carts.
Give them the tools. When the kids in college, Polish Americans, right, that were born in the United States, when they face problems like Polish murdered Jews, right, which is becoming, I'm fascinated how this is spreading in the United States. They don't have any other channel to learn about this and contradict it with the facts. Okay, so you and the program Polish Daily might be the tool to give them something that they can easily absorb and stand up to the false information that they are facing every day.
Show take their mobile device and show the YouTube. That basically states the facts one after another.
Yes.
That's all what you have to do with false narration.
And I'll tell you one more thing. I strongly believe that 90% of Americans, and I think this is throughout the world, they do not have their own opinion. They hear opinion and they like it and they share it as their own. I believe that if you want to have your own opinion, you have to read the news from all the possible channels without bias. Okay? I watch CNN, which I'm not fond of, okay? I watch all the channels and I try to understand why these people say certain things. Understand it, right? And then I start to have my own opinion. A lot of people don't do that. They just take information and take it as their own.
Okay. Well, make your opinion educated. Check what is going on. Watch Poland Daily with Nick Sadowski here. Thank you very much for this brief conversation. That's it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Welcome again to Poland Daily Weather. Tomorrow the maximum temperature in Poland will be 13 degrees in Bydgoszcz, yet some showers will be appearing there as well. The minimum temperature will be 9 degrees in Białystok as well as in Lublin. Also Rzeszów will see 9 degrees Celsius, 12 degrees are expected in Warsaw. A lot of sun will appear, but also it will be quite cloudy. Now let's check the forecast in Europe for tomorrow. The maximum temperature will be 20 degrees in Vienna, 21 degrees in the Athens, and we are expecting 21 degrees in Madrid, Spain. The coolest area will be Oslo in Norway with only 8 degrees Celsius, 9 degrees will be seen in Helsinki and 11 in Stockholm. We are expecting also quite a bit of sun in Berlin as well as in Vienna, Zagreb, Rome and in the Athens. This is all for tonight. Thank you and good night.
It was first built between 1671 and 1679 by Stanisław Heraclius Lubomirski to designs by the Dutch architect Tilman van Gameren. This complex included a garden. The town had passed to the Sieniawski family by 1706, when the palace and its surroundings were destroyed by Swedish troops during the Great Northern War. Reconstruction began under Elżbieta Sieniawska in 1722. Soon afterwards, Maria Zofia Czartoryska married August Alexander Czartoryski, and between 1731 and 1736, they built a new Rococo palace on the site to designs by Jan Zygmunt Debel. At the turn of the 18th and 19th centuries, Puławy was the center of political, cultural, and literary life. It happened thanks to Adam Kazimierz Czartoryski and his wife Isabella from Fleming, who brought the most outstanding artists, Jan Piotr Norblin, writers, Julian Ursin Niemcewicz, and architects, Christian Piotr Eigner, to the Puławski court. It was here, in the Temple of Sibyl of 1801 and the Gothic House of 1809, that the Duchess created the first museum in Poland. It has become the nucleus of a great collection cultivated to this day. At the end of the November uprising, the Czartoryski property was confiscated, and the Czartoryski family emigrated to Paris. In Puławy, the Alexandria Institute for the Education of Maidens was established, and subsequently the Polytechnic and Agricultural Forestry Institute and the Institute of Rural Land and Forests. Currently, the owner of the palace and park complex is the Institute of Soil Science.
Are these people specially gifted to create these kind of objects, or are they simply volunteers?
Współpracujemy ze szkołą, która jest nam bliska.
We cooperate with a school that we are really close with because of the poet Julian Ursin Niemcewicz. The school's patron is the National Education Commission.
Z tej szkoły zdecydowały, że wezmą udział w tym naszym programie.
The children from this school decided that they would like to take part in our program. They do the work in groups or alone. All children are talented, but some of them were a bit scared when they saw our beautiful exhibits.
Gdy zobaczyły nasze piękne muzealia, mamy też dla nich propozycje. Wykonają.
But we also have an offer for them. They will make beautiful flowers from the blotting paper, which will be placed on a balcony where Princess Isabella will perform.
I które będą zdobiły balkon, na którym będzie występowała księżna Izabela.
Can we say something about the princess herself? What was she like and what did her life look like?
Księżna Izabela Czartoryska to wyjątkowa postać. To wielka...
Princess Isabella Czartoryska is a unique character. She's a great Pole, a great patriot. She said the words, "My homeland, I couldn't defend you, so let me at least make you immortal." And in my opinion, she did her best. She left us a huge legacy in the form of monuments, books,
w postaci zabytków, w postaci książek.
She was also a writer, a lover and garden designer. She designed the Puławy Garden. She's a philanthropist, also a founder of a school for children.
Ogrodów to pisarka, chociażby autorka książki Myśli różne o sposobie zakładania ogrodów.
She's an author of a book called The Various Ways to Make a Garden. She also wrote many books for children. She's also an actress. She took part in many theatrical performances.
Przecież w pałacu były teatry i wewnątrz, i na zewnątrz.
Theaters were located here, in the inside and outside area of the palace. First and foremost, she's a lover of beauty and a very good mother. She showed her children how to love their homeland. She taught them how to work.
Uczyła ich pracy. Jeszcze zanim zamieszkała z mężem i z dziećmi w Puławach,
way before she moved with her husband and children to Puławy, she designed houses for children. Each of them made their own gardens. I think that Princess Czartoryski's adult lives showed their input in saving their homeland. They continued their great work. Adam Jerzy Czartoryski and her grandson Władysław Czartoryski continued the work she started, so collecting art and establishing the Czartoryski Museum in Krakow. After the November uprising, Princess Isabella was forced to leave the city of Puławy. There is a painting that shows sad 80-year-old Princess Isabella surrounded by children and a woman moments before leaving Puławy. It's a very moving illustration. Thanks to this, we see her as a living woman, not a non-imagined princess, but a figure who makes Puławy a beautiful town.
Prowadziła wielką działalność i charytatywną i wiemy, że przebywało tutaj bardzo wielu.
We see her as a woman who ran a great charity. And we know that there were here many artists and politicians who said, "Don't worry, we have Puławy," when they heard the words, "The Republic of Poland dies." So this town was an artistic and political center which developed very energetically. This is where the patriotism and the spirit of the homeland was coming from.
I gorący patriotyzm ojczyzny.
What was exactly happening in the palace when Izabela Czartoryska has left it?
Gdy księżna znajdowała się w pałacu, pałac był ostrzeliwany.
At the time when the princess was in the palace, it was being shelled by the Russians.
Adama Wirtemberskiego.
And among others her grandson Adam Wirtemberski. It was because her daughter, Maria Wirtemberska, has fallen for her husband quite unfavorably.
Berski zabrał jej syna jeszcze we wczesnym dzieciństwie.
Ludwig, her husband, took their son when he was a small child and raised him to hate his grandma, the Duchess Izabela, and his family overall. The princess left Puławy and headed to Wysocko with Maria and spent her last days there.
Wysocka z Marią Wirtemberską i tam umiera.
I know that many of the palace's exhibits have been confiscated. Did you manage to get most of them back?
Tak, większość eksponatów była zabezpieczona.
The Duchess left Puławy and headed to Wysocko with Maria and spent her last days there. Well, most of the pieces were secured. Above all, the ones hidden in the monastery in Kazimierz or the town Sieniawa. Most of them are displayed in our museum, and the most beautiful exhibition is currently in the National Museum of Krakow.
Wspomniała Pani o Sieniawie. You mentioned the town Sieniawa. What stands behind this name?
Pałac w Sieniawie to również majątek należący do Czartoryskich.
The palace in Sieniawa is a property of the Czartoryski family.
Wiele lat księżna mieszkała, tam też przyjeżdżał Tadeusz Kościuszko.
This is where the princess lived for many years. Also where Tadeusz Kościuszko used to visit. But to us, Sieniawa is a special place because that's where the Princess Izabela was laid to rest. On top of her coffin, there's always a flower bouquet.
Izabeli zawsze umieszczony jest bukiecik kwiatów.
The 3rd of May, 1791. A day like any other, except it wasn't a day like any other in Poland, because here, in the building behind me, the Royal Castle in Poland, the great Sejm of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth did something incredible. It adopted a new constitution. The agitation of the constitution, the desire for the constitution, had begun with the election of the new king, Stanisław Augustus, at the Convocation Sejm of 1764. How this became necessary, how it was passed, and what it meant for Poland, we'll be finding out in this programme. I'm Nicholas Richardson, and this is Poland Daily History. We're here in the Senate chamber in the Royal Castle in Warsaw, where the 3rd of May 1791 Constitution was enacted. And behind me is the very throne on which the king sat during the deliberations. During that session of the Sejm, the king, Stanisław Augustus, sat on this very chair, which has survived the tumultuous Polish history, and we can marvel that it's with us today. Anna, let's talk some more about the Great Sejm, which ran from 1788 to 1792, during which the Act was passed. What were the conditions which enabled this Sejm, unlike the previous occasion, to actually make some progress?
Well, at that time, Catherine was focusing on other things. Poland was not her priority. She got involved in wars with Turkey and also with wars with Sweden. So you could say that Sauron's eye was turned into another direction.
Exactly. Okay. Were the Prussians fighting somebody else as well at this point?
Yes, they were also involved in that war, and they're trying to also take us to become part of the wars that they were fighting.
But Poland resisted because the king had something more exciting to do.
On the other hand, we had quite strong generals that the two sides were trying to convince to work for them.
I'm right in saying that there were some particular reasons why this Great Sejm, and in particular the session in 1791, was successful. One thing I think I'm right in saying was they used the device which had been used in the past of having the same sort of a confederated Sejm, which meant that in fact the liberum veto couldn't apply and that decisions were taken on a majority vote.
Exactly. This would happen on very special occasions. In such a case, the Sejm could not be broken. Usually, the Sejm that was called upon every 2 years was to last for 6 weeks. However, this one lasted for 4 years because it was to bring very big changes to the way the country functions as such.
And also, I think, again, it's something which obviously happens in the modern world, and of course, all history is interesting because I think it was Mark Twain who said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes. And I think there were a couple of sort of shenanigans which they engaged in actually making sure that on the great day the measure actually passed. I think, for example, I read that some of the deputies were actually not present on the day the vote was going to be taken. Some were still on their Easter holidays, some hadn't been invited. So that on the day itself, we had a sort of fairly favourable collection of nobles in the room.
Yes, on the day that the Constitution was signed, they made sure that the opponents are not in the city, and they didn't even have to do big work about this because the decision was made right after Easter holidays, so there were many of the nobles that were not able to reach Warsaw on the date that the Constitution was signed.
And I think, and also, obviously, just to avoid any particular problems, the king's nephew, Józef Poniatowski, had assembled troops around the royal castle and in Warsaw to make sure that the troublemakers, if they appeared, didn't get through.
Also, the citizens of Warsaw, who the Constitution also guaranteed some rights that they were not entitled to for many centuries, they were also guarding the castle, making sure that whatever they asked for, whatever was to be promised inside that Constitution will actually take place.
That great day dawned, 3rd of May, 1791, still a holiday in Poland today. And it was passed. I mean, a remarkable achievement, essentially, given where the king had been not so long ago, first partition of Poland, losing a third of the country. I think the partition Sejm, it's probably fair to admit, there were some quite useful things that happened. I think one of the Commission for National Education, I think, was the first ministry of education in the world.
Secular ministry.
Yes, I think the first partition Sejm, so-called, was not a complete disaster, but obviously, having recovered from the disaster of 1772, to be here in 1791 having passed this great new constitution is a tremendous achievement. I mean, the king must have been absolutely thrilled.
Yes, but some of the authors that were supporting the king in creating the constitution, like Ignacy Potocki, representing one of the most noble Polish families, along with Hugo Kołłątaj, another famous Polish reformist, after completing the constitution, they called it the last will or the testament of the Polish Commonwealth. However, the king was probably much more positive about it.
I think the king was very keen, I think, to try and model the constitution, or not necessarily model, but take influences from the British constitution, which had a very strong state structure around a very strong king. I think that the problem he probably faced was that, looking at the British constitution at that time, you had a historical development whereby you had a very strong king and nobles gradually taking power from a very strong king, and then nobles and the House of Commons. Whereas, of course, he was coming at it from the opposite point of view. He's a rather weak king, trying to take back power from a very strong nobility, which is, of course, is rather more difficult. And I think there are some other quite interesting examples. I mean, I think the king, the constitution, was influenced obviously by the Enlightenment thinking of people like Montesquieu and the idea of the separation of powers, separation between the legislature and the judiciary and the executive. Whereas, of course, in the English system, although we have that, that was not rather interestingly, that was not the fundamental driver. The fundamental driver in England was the rule of law, the concept which was rather poetically put by Lord Denning, a great judge of the 20th century. However mighty you be, the law is above you. So the separation of powers, I think, in the British system was a subtlety, but was not quite as apparent. And up until Tony Blair's reforms, when he became Prime Minister in 1997, we had the character of the Lord Chancellor, who was at once the head of the judiciary. He also sat in the cabinet, so as a member of the executive, and he was also the equivalent of the Speaker of the House of Lords, which is the legislature. Now, if you were designing a system today, you'd say that's complete nonsense. You wouldn't do that. But it actually served our nation very well. But, of course, being in continental Europe as we are in Poland, the king with the Enlightenment values, Montesquieu, these sort of people, the separation of powers was, I think, what he sought to achieve, which would be fantastic. And, of course, the removal of the awkward things like confederations, liberum veto.
Liberum veto. Also, he limited the powers of the magnates, but he didn't do it directly. He wasn't able to control them in any way. So he took the voice away from, let's say, the lowest levels of Polish aristocracy, the poorest people who had the less to say, but they had the same voice in the Polish parliament. And they were the ones that were easiest to bribe. So they were the ones that their voice was taken away. They were not able to have the rights that they enjoyed before. And this way, the magnates were not able to bribe them.
So that's a great step forward. And you look at where Poland came. Obviously, Poland had even if you start back in the 13th century, you had this marvelous development where it had this democratic system. In theory, this marvelously functioning democratic state, great tolerance. Necessarily, if 60% of your population were not Polish, different religions. And yet the system had become corrupted. So this is a marvelous moment, I think, on the 3rd of May, 1791, when you finally had a modern constitution which actually really this time it appeared was going to make sure that there'd be no slipping back. You got the nobles under control. You had a modern functioning constitution by the standards of the day. It was very exciting.
Yeah, for the first time we had a centralized treasury, for example. Yes, this didn't exist before. We finally got a proper ministry that was headed by the king, also the Primate of Poland, who was the head of the Educational Commission, was there, and there were another 5 ministers who were responsible for the most important areas of our political life, whether it was foreign affairs, internal affairs, treasury, and army. So out of a sudden we have an organ that is responsible to make sure that what the parliament is deciding upon is actually being executed. This did not exist in Poland anymore.
A marvelous step forward, really, and really great and fantastic development and a rather marvelous achievement. So there we have it. Finally, we're in this room. The new constitution was adopted. Known as the Constitution, technically it was the Government Act, but that's a quibble only lawyers would ever think about. And we now can think, fantastic, we've achieved it. We'll find out later what the reaction was to the Constitution. We'll look at the Constitution itself and see what impact this had, not only on Poland, but on Europe as a whole.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Poland Daily Travel, where this time we say, head east, young man. We're going in search of Eastern promise to the Białystok region, about 2 hours, give or take a few kilometers, east of Warsaw. This is an area of hidden treasures, castles, palaces, wildlife, and of course water and the great forests. The Brunitsky Palace in the center of Białystok stands out as a Baroque masterpiece, often compared in its own way to a smaller version of Versailles. Then there is the unmissable little fairy tale town of Tykocin. It lies in bucolic splendor astride the Narew River, with its fine church and synagogue, and restored castle. It's an undiscovered Baroque jewel. And so we scratched the surface at least to tempt you to the wonders of this beautiful and wild region of Poland. We know you're going to really enjoy these episodes. So stay tuned as Poland Daily takes you to the Białystok region, in the far east of Poland. Visit our Poland Daily Live page and subscribe to all our great programs. Thanks for watching.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a beautiful street. Where is it? Oh, if it's Friday, it must be Białystok, this rather small city in terms of size, but has a very dense population. And in Poland, it's the second densest population after Łódź. I know it's an unbelievable fact. I had to tell you that because we're staying on Lipowa Street here with my friend and colleague. That is
you remember me from Łódź, probably.
Yeah, she was at Łódź. She was following us around, following me.
Stalking.
They're not two of me, stalking me in Łódź. And suddenly, after I came out of the palace, there she was, sitting in a cafe. And I said, why don't you come and join me on camera again and talk to all the folks out there in internet land, television land, wherever you are, anywhere in the world. And I want to say a special hello to everyone in Papua New Guinea who loves this show. And we're glad to, keep eating those heads and shrink them well. At any rate, we're in Białystok, which is east in Poland. It's so far east, it's almost in Belarus. What is Białystok famous for? It's famous for the Braniecki Palace. It's famous for the medical school, which people from all over the world come to the medical school. Did you know that? No, you didn't know that?
I didn't know.
She didn't know that. She knew that. She's just pretending that she didn't know that. She knows all these kind of facts about medical school because she's always trying to date
because
a
I'm
doctor.
A doctor.
You're trying to date a doctor. It's even worse. Anyway, so it's very easy to get around this town. They have everything that you need, like buses, bikes. You can rent bikes. You can walk. You can do all this sort of things. If you want to have a nice meal and something to drink, where would you go?
Here maybe.
Would you go here?
It looks good, yeah.
Is this your first time in Białystok?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
This one looks good. It has a garden. And
you think that's all right? There are a lot of gardens along here, though. Look, there's a lady on a bicycle. Now, this whole street, Lipowa Street, I mean, this is where the action is in town. So if you come to Białystok, you need to come to Lipowa Street right after you visit the Braniecki Palace Gardens and walk around that fine house, which we have already been to in previous episodes. But anyway, another site worth visiting is some of the side streets around off of this area. We're not going to go to all of those today, but if you're here and you're on Lipowa Street, hey, why not stretch your legs? Take a long walk around, yeah? At any rate, one of the other great things to do while you're here is to try the various vodkas that are on sale here. Because this area is very famous for a particular brand of vodka in which they put a piece of bison grass, so-called bison grass. I don't know why, what it has to do with bison, but apparently they call it bison grass. And it goes right in the bottle, and it's flavored, and ladies like to drink that vodka particularly, don't they? And what's the drink called?
Something with apple juice and vodka.
That's right. What's
Charlotka, the apple cheesecake. Oh, apple cheesecake. Apple cake.
Apple cake is Charlotka is an apple cake.
There is no apple cheesecake.
But then they put it in they put the vodka with the apple juice and they call it like a
Charlotka.
The same thing as a cake, but it's not a cake.
No.
I'm confused.
It's a drink.
I'm confused. Do you like it?
Yep.
You drink it? See, ladies love that drink. So if you come with a lady to Białystok, you must try that particular drink. At any rate, the great thing also about Białystok, it's very close to a lot of very cool places, including you can go from here to Grodno. Did you know that? Have you ever been to Grodno?
No.
You never been to Grodno?
No.
Ah, it's a fantastic place. It's just over the border in Belarus, and it's supposed to be beautiful. Have not been there yet. Been to Belarus, but not to Grodno yet, which is supposed to be the prettiest city in Belarus. Also, the UNESCO World Heritage Site, Balveja Park, is to the south of Białystok. And there you will see a what?
Some kind of animal.
Right you are. What kind of animal?
Not sure.
It's
Tell me.
big and hairy.
Tell me about it.
It's
A
big
bear?
and hairy. No, I don't think they have bears. They might.
Tell me about it.
It has horns,
Okay.
and it's big and hairy.
Deer.
No, a deer with horns, yes. Deer have horns. It's one of those. No, a bison.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, apparently they like Charlotka. No, they don't. At any rate, they don't like it at all. Okay, look, and wolves. They have wolves in the Balvasia Park. Look, this is a piece of primeval forest that's still left in this beautiful part of the world. And the other place, which I can mention, is Björbje National Park, which is a huge marshland. You can go kayaking there. It's a great place to bicycle, and it's really a wonderful place just to hang out. There's hardly any people. It's fantastic. But there will be after this. Whoops, probably a mistake. At any rate, the other thing you can do from this area is go and see the Tatar villages, also over on the border, not too far away from here, about 35 kilometers. What else is there? Yes, the final thing, the coup de grace, is the beautiful pigeon almost attacked our camera. He was very deft. I liked how he sailed over it. At any rate, Tykocin, a beautiful town, one of the nicest villages in the whole of Poland, which you'll be seeing more of right after this. But at any rate, stay tuned to Poland Daily. Like us on YouTube, because we like you. It doesn't take you long, but it helps us a lot if you like us on YouTube. And we'll be right back after this short break. Is that okay?
Bye, see you.
We'll be back? We're going to come back. Okay, we're going to go walk around the corner and go to the next place.